welcome to this first webinar of our series, the Aesthetics Code. On behalf of Bioscience, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you all here today. You're extremely numerous, and I thank you all, first of all, for that. We are very, very happy to share with you this first episode of a long series of webinars that we're gathering under the name of the Aesthetics Code. During these difficult times, we'll try to continue sharing with you all our knowledge and all our passion for our brands, our products, and our sector with you, and we'll try to have a good time despite the circumstances. I will leave the floor very soon to Massimiliano Brambilla, who will speak about hyaluronic acid for body contouring today. At the end of the presentation, we'll allow you to ask writing questions into the letter box you'll find on the right side of your screen. You don't have yet access to this message box. It's normal because it's going to be open after the doctor's presentation. Also, we'll try to answer all your questions. We may not have enough time for it, so we'll collect all the pending questions and we'll send you a video with the doctor answers to it as soon as possible. We'll also probably keep some questions as presentation topics for future webinars. For those who don't know him, and there are some still, Dr. Brambilla is board certified plastic surgeon. He trained in Italy, in the US, and in Israel. He is a senior surgeon of plastic surgery in charge of plastic surgery in the breast unit and genital surgery at the IRCCS, Fondazione Ospedale Maggiore Policlinico Mangiagalli of Milan. He is also a professor at the University of Milan in Italy and Nîmes in France. He works as a referent of the SIGPRE, the Italian Society of Plastic Surgery, for the genital surgery chapter. Dr. Brambilla is also a board member of many international scientific international committees and societies. He published numerous paper, chapter of books, and we're very proud of it. He's a high member of our Bioscience Scientific Committee. Dr. Brambilla, I leave you the floor. It's your turn. Thank you very much to all of you for being here. At the end of the presentation, you'll have plenty of time to ask anything you want to ask about body contouring and hyaluronic acid for body contouring. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thank you. A lot to you, Matteo. Thanks to everyone of the Bioscience, and especially a great thank to all the people that are attending this webinar. I'm talking from Milano, from the belly of the coronavirus in the world right now. My hospital is a hub for corona, so we're fighting every day, but thinking about good things and positive things as beauty is always good for the heart. So we try today to talk about HA for body contouring, about the Bioscience portfolio with all the products that Bioscience have for this kind of treatment. Disclosures, here we are. So, going to the basic, I would like to share with you some basics about hyaluronic acid, because sometimes we miss the basis, and if we miss the basis, we don't really know what we are dealing with. We know that HA is a natural component of extracellular matrix and is a GAG polymer that has variability in length and molecular weight. And since so many years, there are tries to make replicas of hyaluronic acid, or from animals, for example, from cock. And this was stopped many years ago, abandoned because of the number of allergies and problems. And this, I think there is still a product that can be found in Korea. But nowadays, most of the HAs are obtained via fermentation of Streptococcus. The classification of HA can be done according to the cross-linking. You see here non-cross-linked on the left side and a cross-linked on the right side. And there is a huge difference between the two. The cross-linking can be done by physical cross-linking or by chemical cross-linking. The physical cross-linking is quite limiting, is quite difficult because it doesn't give any stability to the HA. It's very difficult to get a good quality HA, durable and stable. So this is the reason why through the years have been produced many chemicals, cross-linkers, such as DVS, DO, and especially the BDDE that is widely used by all manufacturers. So what happened is that we start from a liquid HA, then there is a cross-linking, and in the two-phase there is those bridges between the blocks of HA are given in order to have a stable and strong cross-linking. Those are the hydrogen bonds that can be obtained through what we call the three-phase cross-linking that is classic from most of the manufacturers. What bioscience studied in recent years is this technology that is called SCLT, that is patent, and is a 5 stages cross-linking in order to give more stable and bigger bridges between the two hyaluronic acid, let's call blocks. And this leads to a more resistant hyaluronic acid because it becomes more resistant to hyaluronidase, so it's longer duration. It's more viscous, so it's more resistant to pressure. And 5 washings instead of 3 washings means that we have less BDDE in comparison with a 3-step one. Because one of the problems of BDDE is the toxicity, because we don't want to have much BDDE because in huge amounts it cannot be so nice for the body. So with this system we avoid this problem. Then according to classification of HA, according to the phases, we have the monophasic HA gels that are single phase HA, and then we have biphasic gels containing cross-linked HA that is suspended within non-cross-linked HA, that more or less is used as a carrier. And you can see here, again, the hydrogen bands. Monophasics then are divided into monodensified, that means that they have 1-stage cross-linking, and polydensified, it means that they have 2 or more stages of cross-linking with the system you have seen before. So we have 2 different kinds of monophasics. Then again, hyaluronic acids can be classified according to concentration and to HA dimension of particles. And each one of them, so HA concentration, HA molecular weight, and cross-linking, all those characteristics, they go under the name of rheology. Rheology is the physical characteristics that influence so much HA when is subject to deforming forces. It means that all those characteristics make the difference when you inject one product or another product inside the body or in a certain tissue. And the characteristics of rheology are viscosity, elasticity, and cohesivity. Elasticity is the capability to recover original shape after deformation. Viscosity, the inability to recover, so it's the opposite. And cohesivity is the strength of cross-linking adhesion forces that hold individual HA. And the 3 of them, they make really the big difference from one product to another. That means that if you have the possibility of choosing many products, you have to choose the right product to be injected in the right place. This, for example, is a cohesivity. It means that if you separate the fingers with a cohesive product, then it will stick. But then elasticity means that when you go back, the capability of the product is to stay in the same way as started. So cohesivity is very important for tissue integration, viscosity and elasticity for tissue support, and malleability. And malleability is one of the characteristics of plasticity of the product. Thixotropic technology, this is very interesting because, again, is one of the things that have been more studied by bioscience. It means that if you have a product and you pass this product through you pass this product through a needle, then when the product goes out from the needle, it will have the same characteristic it had before passing through a needle. This is very interesting and important for stability, for the rate of reabsorption that becomes less, of course, and because it doesn't spread into the tissue. So spreading into the tissue is not a good thing in certain cases, but it's very nice in other ones. So we can say that the thixotropy is fundamental in certain treatments and is not in other. But having some products that are more thixotropic than others is fundamental to make the right choice. Bioscience products, we have face fillers and body fillers. So, and we will stay on that too. Oops, sorry. And we stay on that too. So monophasic. What we have in monophasic, we have higher proof. That is low viscosity with high elasticity. It means that it can pass very easily through a needle with no effort. So it's very soft and is very good for face. Don't use in other part of the body because it's not useful. It's fantastic for the face, but in other places it doesn't work. It's best for superficial to mid-dermis. More superficial you are, and better it is with this product because it gives the best when you're on the surface. Higher proof comes into different products. One is called soft, that is monodensified, and the other one is balanced, that is polydensified. And what changes one from the other is viscosity, because you can see here in yellow, viscosity in the soft is much lower than the viscosity in the balance. So imagine that because of the fact that viscosity is so important when you inject it into, for example, in the surface, because less viscosity means that it can spread. So it is very good when you're really in the surfaces, and I'm talking about soft. With a balance, you can be deeper. In fact, superficial indications. Balance, deep. Then we have the products that are biphasics, and those are two products, because are the products of the line Iacorp and the products of the line Genefiel. So medium to high viscosity, medium to high elasticity. Of course, the products are harder products, but are more resistant and more lasting. And the indications are for face and body, and for deep dermal tissue injection. So those are the products of the line Iacorp. If we make a comparison between the cross-linking systems and the dimension particles, because you can see from here that, for example, okay, we can see that molecular weight is the same in both of them. But if we look at the cross-linked of the linking and the dimension of the particles, we can see that there is a huge difference, or at least there is a huge difference, for example, in cross-linking between the lips and the face contouring MLF1 and MLF2. And if you look at the particles, you can clearly see that the dimension of the particles of hyaluronic acid is completely different, because, for example, in lips, it's 80, and it goes up to 500 in MLF2. So the difference is really huge, and the reaction in tissue will be very, very different. Stabilization, here again, have a look to the cross-linking to the stabilizators. Okay, face, lips, Iacorp 1 and 2. Look at here, we pass from 3.6% to 18.4%. It means that the products are very different one from the other, and they react differently. Genefiel. Again, it's biphasic, medium-high viscosity, high elasticity, is very close to higher cork, but is softer. And we will see why in a second. And indications, again, are face and body, and deep dermis, and soft tissue indication. If you make a comparison, because one of the questions can be why different products for body contouring, because apparently we have higher corp, MLF1, MLF2, and Genefiel that can be with the same indication, that is body contouring. But if we look, for example, viscosity is the same, pH is the same, but particle size is different, is completely different. So we go from 500 down to 200 of Genefiel contour. It means that their rheology is totally different, or not totally, but let's say it's partially different, but with very interesting differences. And the cross-linking, again, with MLF2 is much higher than in Genefiel. The MLF2 is quite close to MLF1, but is different from Genefiel. The two products are two different products. When you have them in your fingers, and I encourage you to have the products in your fingers to taste it, you really can feel that the particles are different and the products are different. So, how to choose the right HA for body contouring? There are some parameters that are fundamental for the decision and are desired final results. So we have to define exactly which is the desire and the goal we want to achieve, the result. We have to define the anatomical area. We have to define the tissue depth, so where we are injecting, and the injection technique. Each of those are fundamental to make the right choice for the good product. Tissue is fundamental, it's fundamental relevance to achieve a good result. We have to understand the depth, so where we are injecting, and the tissue quality. If we are injecting intradermally, we will make a certain choice. It means that the quality of viscosity and elasticity, they have to be really at the top, because we want a product that have the capability, for example, to spread if we are really superficial. For example, when we inject intradermally or hypersuperficially in order to smooth superficial wrinkles. If we are subdermal, what we have to do is to use a product that, is quite close to the product that we are using more superficially, but it can be, of course, more stiff. It means that viscosity and elasticity can be higher. Then, if we inject in the deeper surfaces or close to the fascia, the product that we have to use is a product that have a high viscosity and less capability of elasticity, for example, and with a good elasticity, because we want the product to support the pressure. You can see my my arrow. The pressure of the tissue on the hyaluronic acid that we injected. Tissue quality, it makes the difference again, because in the same area, if we consider a young patient or an older one, we have different tissues with different pressures of the tissue on the hyaluronic acid that we injected. So we have to consider different products on different age, in different age. We have to consider, for example, the aging process with the movement and with the diminishing of the volumes of fat compartment inside the face in order to restore properly the youthful anatomy. And even in the body, there are very important differences, for example, in Botox, because Botox of young women, it's very different from the Botox of an elder one, and tissues that are not elastic, need a different products and different technique compared to products that can be injected in more hard and stiff tissues of younger patients. So, for example, if we look at this chart that is apparently a little complicated, but for me is fundamental. And let's see, for example, mid-phase. Okay, so our aim is to augment the volume and to augment the projection, and the technique is a subdermal or deep dermal injection. And the desirable properties of HA is of a product with withstand shear deformation. It means that to resist to deformation and compression, but need to have a minimal displacement and maintain the shape. So the rheology property would be low viscosity injection in order to be able to inject it easily with high elasticity and with a minimal capability with a medium-high cohesivity, If we go, for example, in fine lines and lips, we want to the volume of the vermilion and the definition, of course, so injection has been performed submucosal or intradermal. The desirable properties is easy molding and spread of the product, but not excessive bulking. So the product has to be with a low viscosity, because the injection, of course, with a low medium elasticity, with a low cohesivity. But then if we start to change, for example, lower phase is different, because what we need is a medium elasticity, a medium cohesivity, because we want volume and projection. Think about nose and chin now. Volume and projection. Medium viscosity, of course, high elasticity, high cohesivity. We don't want the product to spread. If we jump then on body contouring, on body volumes, for example, the aim is to achieve volume and projection. So subdermal or intra-adipose tissue injection, we don't want at all a product that's spread. We want a maximal vertical projection. So we want a product with a mid viscosity. Why? Because the cannula that we use to inject there, the product can be bigger. So we don't care so much about the viscosity. But we want a high elasticity and high cohesivity. Think about the buttocks, for example, and about the pressure we give to buttocks. We need a product with elasticity and with cohesivity. It means that when there is a pressure on the buttock, the product will not spread. This is different if we think, for example, about body skin relaxation, because we can use the same products, but the same philosophy, we can use a chain, but the aim is less the volume, a little more the projection, but we want a product that spread with a good projection, but we want it to spread. So mid viscosity and mid elasticity and high cohesivity. If we look about, so as far as we understood till now, the two parameters that are fundamental are viscosity and elasticity. And if we look on the products that we have in our portfolio, and we look at an ascending curve, at the top of viscosity and elasticity, we have HiaCorp 2, then right under we have HiaCorp 1, we have Genefield body that is definitely a little less, the contour, and then slowly the soft touch, and then the soft touch is more comparable to the balance, and the soft feel is more comparable to the soft and to HiaCorp lips. So it's a matter of decision according to the aim, to what we want to achieve, the result we want to achieve, to the anatomical area, and to the aging process of the patient that we are facing, that faces us. Let's talk now about HA and body contouring. What I call is past, present, and future. I will talk a little bit about the past, because I was involved in the past in studies in a product that I loved a lot. that was macrolane. It's not nice sometimes to talk during a webinar of an industry or another product, but I love it, and I left a little part of my heart. So I will talk a little bit about that, because I think that it was a very good product with good results, and it was supported with good scientific studies. But at a certain point, the industry decided to remove it from the market. And this was due not for the good results or the good scientific studies supporting it, but it crashed because many doctors were using the product in an inappropriate way. It means they used to take the macrolane and filling syringes and injecting the face with a product that was not produced and studied for the face. It was studied for body contouring, and that's it. So many of those doctors, they thought to have a cheap product that they could use it easily in the face, and they use it, and they were using fat for the face. But hyaluronic acid is not fat, and when you inject 20 cc's in the face, and if you inject a hyper-viscous product in the face, you will have disasters and not good results. And then it was they decided to take out from the market because of an inappropriate use in the breast. So those were the reasons why the experience stopped, and that was a great pity, because I think that for body contouring, HA have a present and have a great future. So it's fundamental for us to stay on indications, that is volume enhancing, shape remodeling, and laxity treatment for buttocks, arms, calves, hands, genitals. There is a question mark. Tissue, as we said, is relevant because sometimes an area requires different HA with different rheological characteristics. Look at, for example, this patient. In this patient, for example, for me, are indicated in the superior area multiple small deep bolus, and in the inferior part, a subdermal fan technique in order to reduce the wrinkling that when she contracts the gluteus maximus, she has. So multiple deep bolus of Hiacorp 2, superiorly and laterally, and subdermal fan technique of Hiacorp 1 inferiorly. Of course, in tissues like that, for example, it's easy to get a good result with a Hiacorp 2 with a multiple small bolus technique, and the results you can achieve are very interesting and fantastic. But not all patients are like that. For example, here, what we need is a double technique, so injecting more deeply with Hiacorp 2, and then subdermal fan technique with Hiacorp 1. And when I'm talking about bolus, I'm talking about really small ones, not big ones, really small ones, in order to have a smooth result. And the results are very interesting, of course. When you have scars, what you need is subdermal fan technique, for example, with a Genefiel contour, because you're more superficial. So I prefer to use a Genefiel instead of a Hiacorp, because I think that the result is better, and because we have to stay more superficial, and the results are, of course, interesting. And the same in this case, again, Genefiel contour, superficial, in order to get results like that. Again, this is a case of post-liposuction sequelae. This is a double technique, deeper and more superficial. And the result of the double technique. Cases like that are definitely more difficult, but the difficult cases, the difficult treatment, Poland syndrome is very difficult to treat, especially in patients that are so slim and thin, they don't have any fat for fat grafting, but for me anyway, in most cases is the top procedure, and implants are generally a failure because the skin is so thin and you have no fascia at all. We have just the ribs. So what we can do is perform multiple sections of subdermal fan technique with a Genefi contour, for example, in order to get a better result. And you can achieve it through multiple sequences technique. And relaxation of the tissues, again, for me, is Genefi contour, because you need to spread the product under the dermis in order to have a good swelling of the tissues that reduce relaxation. And here I'm using a spinal needle. If we talk about calves, we fight again tissues that are really stiff, really stiff. So I prefer to use a higher corp 2 with small bolus, because for me it gives more resistance to pressure. With good results. Female genitals is a different chapter, and we need some consideration about it. First of all, is it off label or is it in label? Because Genefi and higher corp are patent for body contouring. So the first question is labia majora part of the body, or genitals are an internal part? The second one is anatomical considerations, and the other question is which product, and I would add how much product and how much quantity. Some of you know that genital is my focus, main focus in my practice. So I love this area, and I did so many studies, anatomical studies. So first question is it off label or not? So according to anatomy, this is external genitalia. So according to anatomy, we are out. So apparently we can use it. We can use the product. From the embryological point of view, we are talking about the ectodermal origin, and from ectoderma origins the skin as well. So it means that we are out. So according to me, external genitalia can be treated with a product that is for body contouring. But this is my opinion, and is not an opinion, it is my opinion. So we have to ask to bioscience if they, for them as well, they agree to this vision, or not. But according to embryology and anatomy, I think it's safe. The other consideration is about the anatomy. I have to tell you sometimes some disasters with hyaluronic acid, because we have to understand, first of all, that hyaluronic acid is not fat, and you have to understand that this area is hyperreactive. If you see in this image of cadaver dissection, this is a labia majora. The labia majora is a fat bag that is surrounded by a fascia. You see that I'm grabbing the fascia and I'm moving it superiorly, and the fascia contains fat. What we can say is that we can inject safely a hyaluronic acid subdermally. We can inject it even inside the labial sac, but we cannot go at the base of the sac. This is because the base of the sac is open, and hyaluronic acid it might migrate. This is the first observation. The second one is regarding the vascular arcades of vascularity. They are deep. It means that if we go deep, we can injure the vascular arcades, so we don't want it and we don't need it. So if we stay superficial, we are safe. What we have to consider anyway is that the tissue is hyperreactive. It means that when you inject a hyaluronic acid, the reaction you have from tissues is much different from the reaction that you can have injecting, for example, in the buttocks or injecting in the face or in the arm or somewhere else. Because when you inject the hyaluronic acid into the labia, you will have anyway an edema that will last for a long time. That means that when you inject hyaluronic acid, you have first of all to make the choice of hyaluronic acid with a good quality of elasticity, with a low viscosity, with a small quantity to be injected, so never more than 2 cc's that are fair enough to achieve good results and can be injected easily subdermal. Don't use a product with more important characteristics, such as higher corp 1, because it's definitely too much, and use small quantities to achieve good and stable results. What you want to get is an augmentation of the volume and enhancing the quality of the skin. Okay, after all that, I will share with you some of my thoughts about perspectives in the use of what we can call macromolecular HA, even if this terminology is a little old style, but it can be useful to define those products. I think that those products have a bright future in body contouring if proper indications and good practice will be respected. I think that if all doctors using those products will stay on indications and will have a proper knowledge of HA rheology, a proper knowledge of indication, a proper knowledge of techniques, we will have for the next years, many years, one more arrow in our quiver. But we have to stay on that. We have to have really clear in our mind that each HA has different capabilities of rheology, and even between each product that is indicated for body contouring, there are huge differences. So MLF1 is different from characteristic of MLF2, but is different from the characteristic of Genefiel. So it's a matter of the decision, indication, and technique. When you inject the product with a fan technique, you will have a certain result. When you inject it with bolus, you will have another one. And when you melange and you mix the techniques and sometimes the product, you can achieve even different results. So it's a matter of learning curve. So at the end of the story, I think we have a bright future. And I ended up my presentation. Thanks for the attention, and I'm here for all your questions.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now you can see that you have a small letterbox on the right part of the screen called questions. So you can type there all what you want to know about the presentation. We will wait for the first question. Do you guys have any questions? Because I got one from... Okay, let's see. Okay, we have a first question. Thank you for your lecture, Doctor. Can you throw some light on possible complication of body contouring? That's a question we just received from Richard.
Yeah, well, I don't think that there is a technique that is perfect and has no complication rate. So every single technique has complication. I like very much, for example, fat growth. I was so proud to write one of the chapters of Sidney Coleman's book, and I have to tell you that even with fat growth, we have complications. And with a product like HA, of course, we can have complication, and complications generally are related to a misunderstanding of the rheology of the product, or to the amount of product that has to be injected. So what I like to say is that complication may occur, one, because they can occur, is like infections, and what we can do to avoid infections are a proper disinfection and to perform it in proper structures, taking care of all the possibility, taking care of a good practice. What we can have is inflammation, as with all hyaluronic acids. So we have to be prepared to treat some inflammations. And sometimes what I see in the past, and definitely less in the recent times, for example, are lumps and bumps. Luckily, hyaluronic acid is, first of all, reabsorbable. Secondly, we can treat it properly with hyaluronidase. For example, what I saw sometimes is injection of too much product resulting in lumps. So the lump can be treated with hyaluronidase, can be treated with aspiration, for example, or just punching and squeezing out the product. But the problem has to be treated by persons that they know exactly what they're doing. I use a lot in the past, and I even know what is, for example, ecography, in order to define exactly which is the problem. So at the end, the answer to the question is that, of course, there might be complication, but complication rate is quite low if the product is correctly implanted and the quantity is correct and the indication is correct.
Okay, thank you, doctor. We have another question. Is IACorp and Genifil CE marked?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, in fact, I can add something because I'm a member of the marketing team for bioscience. IACorp and Genifil are actually the only CE marked hyaluronic acid for body fit now in the world. We have another question from Kerry. Kerry is asking, how long does it last in the body?
This is a very good question, because it depends on the quantity of hyaluronic acid you inject and where you inject it. Because, of course, more the product you inject and longer the result, but you have limits, and the limitation is due to the good sense of injecting not too much. So what I would say is that, for example, in buttocks, the results can stay up to 4 or 6 months, quite visible, and then slowly they go down, and then you need a retouch. I rather prefer to have patients coming back to me after 4 months to make a little refill instead of overfilling and trying to have patients that are more happy for 6 months but with a higher complication rate.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Another question after the presentation you did about genitals. There is a question from Hassan. Hassan is asking, how about male genitalia injection?
Up to now, I don't perform it. I think that the anatomy of female anatomy and male anatomy are very, very different. The problem in male is that the buccs and the albuginea are one close to the other, but the space in between is a virtual space. It means that there are no connection between the two. So when you're in between the buccs and the albuginea, you're in the land of nobody. So it means that the product can squeeze here and there. There is one technique that allowed to be injected under the butt, but I think is definitely tricky with question marks. So up to now, I don't recommend to use it in male genitals. I don't think that is appropriate right now, and there are not proper studies. I was involved in, I was monitoring actually the session at IMCAS about male genitals with hyaluronic acid, and there was a very good cadaver dissection, but we were all quite dubitative about the safety of the technique. So even I think that if we will be able to go under the buccal fascia and stay under that, we will have a stiff place where to inject it. But it's almost impossible to be sure that we are in that plane.
Okay, we have a lot of questions about the buttocks injections. We'll do a specific webinar for that, so we'll not answer these questions right now, but you have to know that we can use it for buttocks also. Anastasios is asking, how are you treating granulomas?
Granulomas are quite rare. And I would say that generally when a lump occurs, what happens is a sort of capsule or a round. And because the term of granuloma, it's quite specific. So if we are talking about lump, I try to define first of all which is the cause of the lump. Under echography, you can see clearly if inside the lump there is a residual of hyaluronic acid or there is not. If there is a residual of hyaluronic acid, I enter it under echography inside the lump with hyaluronic acid, I inject, and I see what happened, because sometimes everything disappears, even if there is a capsule. In other cases, what you see is that the density of the material changes, so I stay with the needle inside. I enter with a 18 gauge needle inside the lump. If the lump is big enough to permit me to insert an 18 gauge, and if I see that the density changes, I aspirate, I wait 2 minutes, and then I aspirate. If inside the nodule, there is no hyaluronic acid, so I really treat it as a granuloma. So I treat it with cortisone, hyperdiluted cortisone, as we treat a granuloma generally. But first of all, you have to make a diagnosis. What is inside? Finished.
Okay. Just another question about. There's a lot of question about the technique. So what's Roya, for example, she's asking, would you recommend bolus technique with cannula or with needle? As she used cannula in general for buttock augmentation, would you recommend using needle for certain boluses or stick to cannula throughout?
No, cannula. Cannula forever.
Okay.
I love cannulas. I use cannulas even for lips, for fine wrinkles. I love cannulas. And in the buttocks, of course, is cannulas, of course.
Okay. A couple of answers about what the people, because we have a lot of questions about the duration of the product in the body. The corporal fillers can last around a year and a half or two. Also, it depends on the techniques and the quantity you're injecting. About the registration, because we are getting a lot of questions about CE mark and all that stuff. I want you to know that we will be also registered in probably Brazil, because we are getting a lot of questions about it within April 2020. So that's something people was asking a lot. Doctor, another question from Tanya. What do you think about PRP plus IACorp MLF2 10 milliliters breast augmentation induction?
What do you think about PRP and hyaluronic acid?
Yes.
I think that PRP and hyaluronic acid of certain hyaluronic acids can be mixed together in order to achieve regeneration, but we are talking about something hyper-specific. There are some publications that that were published, very good publications published quite recently. I'm talking about last year, but we were talking about genitals. About breast, I think that we are not now ready to use again hyaluronic acid for breast. Because the problem with breast is breast imaging. I mean, Botox is Botox, and arms are arms, and genitals are genitals, and the problem that we can face at least are complications. Okay, if we talk about breast, we are talking about breast detection, about breast detection of cancer, so we cannot play. And according to my experience with previous materials, and I'm talking about macrolide, let's talk freely. I think that the product was very good, but it gives a totally different image of the breast. And then the second question is about the inflammation of the tissue induced by hyaluronic acid. So I think that we have to be hyper safe. And so before using it in the breast, I think that we have it will take long time, and so many studies have to be performed. First of all about detection, and then about the safety, and last the efficacy. So I discourage.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. Just for you to know, because we got a lot of questions about it, we'll do a specific webinar for buttocks. We'll do a specific webinar with about hands also. And because I got a lot of questions about it, we will also talk later in next episode about the comparison with fat grafting. Did you use the people is asking about the quantity of product you're using, doctor, for buttocks, for example. Do you have, could you give us an idea of the quantity of product you're using for different zone of the body?
Can you ask me again, because I didn't understand properly all the question?
What is, for example, the usual amount of hyaluronic acid to put in the buttocks, and what is the usual amount of hyaluronic acid you put in the hands?
First of all, I use different products, and the quantity of products, it depends on the quality of tissues and to the result that I want to achieve, and of course to the pocket money of the patient, because each cc has a price, so we have to consider even this. I would say that in the Botox, I inject mainly around 100 cc per side, but sometimes it can be much less if I have to stay just on one point in order to give just little projection, more projection. So even sometimes 20 cc's that are very well placed, they make the difference. Sometimes you have to spread the product, so you have to amplify the use of the hyaluronic acid. And again, what I said is that I really prefer to retreat the patients instead of adding too much volume in one time. And about hands, again, it depends, but I'm very conservative in hands, and I think that even with 5 cc's on the dorsum of the hands, we can achieve good results, because what we want to get is mainly a sort of edema. So even 5 cc's very well placed, and with the product that's spread, they can give a very good result.
Okay, we have another question from Osman. He's asking, do you prescribe doctors steroids to prevent edema or inflammations?
The studies that are published that are extra clear, they state, for example, that if you give cortisone, if you prescribe cortisone is useful just if you start endovenous injection 2 hours before. Otherwise, it doesn't work. What I can tell you my protocol, and my protocol is that before the treatment, 5-7 days before the treatment, I prescribe bromelain, huge quantities of bromelain. It means 3 or 4 pills per day of bromelain. I found that it is very, very active on that. Plus arnica again, 6 pills per day, 5-7 days before, and then they continue with that for some days, and that reduces the inflammation, the inflammation rate. But I generally don't prescribe any steroid after the treatment. I don't like that.
Okay, we got another question from Fadi, and I think we're gonna go through a couple of more questions, if you're okay, doctor. Fadi is asking, have you ever faced any granuloma after buttocks injection, particularly with slim patients?
The answer is yes. It's just a matter of numbers and patients. More patients you treat, more complication you see. When I talk with doctors and they say I never had one complication, I don't believe because it's fantasy. Complication is just a matter of number of patients, and so more patients you treat, more complication you will see in your life. So the answer is yes, of course. I saw granulomas, I saw lumps, but on the other side, I saw many very, very good results. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here to talk about results.
Okay, I repeat to all the people who's asking about techniques for hands, for buttocks, or other zone in the body, we will have specific webinars to answer all these questions. We have a lot of questions about labia majora also. For example, Catherine is asking, when you inject female labia with HA, with hyaluronic acid, do you routinely use antibiotics or steroid to calm inflammation post-treatment?
My personal view and my personal opinion is that I give prophylactic antibiotic to all my patients that are injected with more than 5 cc's of hyaluronic acid. And so in all my patients, I do a prophylactic antibiotic therapy. So 10 minutes before, 15 minutes, half an hour before, I do an intramuscular injection of cephalosporin. And this for me is fair enough. And I have to tell you that I never have seen in my cases through the years. I'm not talking about the experience just with the bioscience products for body contouring. I'm talking about my previous experiences. I never have seen in my cases one infection, but I'm really careful about where I'm performing it, about disinfection, and staying safe. I mean, I have my guidelines. I'm a surgeon, and probably mentally I'm really strict about what I'm doing. I don't think that injecting 20 cc's of hyaluronic acid is the same thing of injecting 1 cc. So we have to be more careful and having more strategical resources compared to a lower volume injection.
Okay, we have a last question from Antonella. I guess Antonella is from the same country as you are, doctor. She says, is it possible to combine IACORP with AFJ and to inject together with Barfi technique to increase the volume of the buttock? She says she's using this technique when she needs to achieve the volume thanks to the IACORP and to improve the quality of the skins, thanks to the effect of the stem cells in one touch. What do you think about that, doctor?
I don't like to mix. I think that I don't like to mix unless someone with a study demonstrates me that mixing gives better results with the same complication rate. I hate complications. I really hate complications. And mixing and combining products is one of the things that I never like. But this is one of my attitudes. Maybe she's right, but again, studies are needed to prove that the efficacy is better and the complication rate is at least the same.
Okay, and last question from Claude, because we got a lot of questions about the techniques of anesthesia. Claude is asking, Claude is from France, and he's asking, he says he has offered this question from his doctors. Before injecting Iacorp, what do you do? Anesthesia on the point of injection or hydrodissection with serum and xyloadrenaline? Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, very good question, because in the scientific board we have very nice discussion about that. Because, for example, Piero Cabai, that has a huge experience in that, he doesn't like at all of injecting anesthetic where he's injecting the product. Me, for example, what I do since ever, I inject with the point of introduction of the cannula with anesthetic with adrenaline 1 on 50,000 because I don't want bleeding, even not in the entry point. And then I enter with a spinal needle, long spinal needle, and I inject a solution that is more or less like a Klein solution, but small quantities, really small quantities. And then I wait 2-5 minutes and I make few words with the patient, and then I inject. I hate so much the pain before and during and after the procedure. But on the other side, I've seen so many treatments done by very good doctors without anesthesia. But maybe this is just my attitude, but I won't change it. I'm not saying that it's wrong not to inject anesthetic. I'm just saying that I always like it like that. I try to avoid pain and discomfort as much as I can.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. We'll have more questions for the next webinars. People is asking already when's going to be the next episode. We will let you know very, very soon. It's going to be, I guess, within the next 2 weeks. So thank you very much for your participation, for your attendance, all of you guys. Doctor, thank you very much. We will be pleased to answer the question in the next webinars, and see you in the next episode of the Aesthetics Code by Bioscience. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Bye.